Welcome back, everybody, to the Love of Pages Book Club. Good to see you all, even though we can't see any of our audience members, but I get to see the lovely Jessica and Stephen's faces, which always make my day better. So, thanks for joining me for this
Sweet
adventure that was Stephen's catalyst and Jessica's idea. I just get to come along. So, we are starting a new book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody got the chance to read the first 2 parts of Scythe by Neil Schuster.
Cover.
Not gonna lie, the good news is, and I'm very clear, I'm a fast reader, but I solidly read both parts this morning and over my lunch break.
It's a fast read.
It's
a fast read.
Yeah. So which was excellent. But before we get into the book, I want to throw it over to Jess.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we reading Scythe?
I read Scythe. I got it for the cover, pretty much in the library. It just, something about it was so intriguing, even though I was kind of sort of at the time done with future books and done with dystopian books and just like, it's run by an AI. But the cover was just so beautiful. It's like, I'll give it a try. Fell in love with it and got nobody else to read it. Like, just all my friends were too busy at the time. And I, quite recently, the 3rd book, which, yeah, sorry, it's a trilogy, but the 3rd book came out the beginning of this year. And so it's been on my mind again. And I kind of read the 3rd book and forgot half the stuff that happened in the 1st book, of course. But it's just like, I like this concept so much. Like, I thought I would go in not liking it and being done with that kind of genre, but it got me back into it. And it's such an interesting concept of the future and so different. And it kind of sort of helped me out in how I think about things in my life. And so it's just a book that honestly I just really wanted to force other people to read, and I could force them all to read it. So
I was in the exact same spot as you. So this one clearly has a lot of a marketing push from the publisher. It was consistently in Walmart at like all of the checkout like stands, like featured on the side of wherever they feature books in other stores that don't even sell books predominantly. And it was one I picked it up one time because I was like, I see this everywhere right now. I flipped it over, I read the back of it, and I was like, my God. And I put it right back down. Because on its face, like, it sounds like so much of the normal like trope things of young adult books. But I'm having a great time.
It's a great time. And the characters are very witty and sharp. Like, all of them are fairly witty and sharp. And you're just like, okay, like...
So if you had to sum this book up in 2 sentences.
I got this one if you want.
1 sentence is never enough, but like
I've got this if you want it. It's a simple equation for me here. I've told you guys about this before.
Do it.
I think it's The Giver plus Hunger Games.
Okay.
Like that's 100% how I get this one. Like even in like personality types for the characters and everything, I think we have like the same kind of division of personalities. Like the idea of an older person who's passing a thing along that's kind of like mystic, and you don't really know the entire history of things, and that's part of the fun of unraveling it. Even though I never read the rest of Lois Lowry's books for that whole series for The Giver, which I feel bad about. And I don't mean The Giver plus Hunger Games in any kind of like derogatory way. Like they're fine. I read both. I read The Giver, loved The Giver, and then all the Hunger Games books I've read. So
no, absolutely, yeah, absolutely,
except the new one.
So before we jump into talking about the book, because I have bones to pick with one where we chose to stop. Which is an excellent place.
You're welcome.
I have bones to pick. Before we get to that, we do need to discuss our beverage of the evening, which Jessica and I did 2 different recipes of the same drink, and Steve did the wonderful mocktail version. So we did the lemon drop.
Lemon drop martini.
Yes. So I think this option came to both Jess and I
Mhm.
because in the opening scenes, one of our main characters,
Citra.
Scythe Freyad. Scythe Feriad? Is that how I pronounce his name? Feriad? The mentor.
Oh.
He's
How
the
do
one he comes into Citra's home and drinks lemonade.
So Faraday?
Yeah, Faraday.
Yeah,
Faraday.
like Daniel Faraday. Michael
Yeah.
Faraday. Michael Faraday.
I'm terrible with pronunciations. So
Speaking of pronunciations, for like probably 24 years of my life, I said Scythe.
You were predisposed to
Star
that
Wars
because
fan.
Star Wars. Yeah.
No, I honestly think it's because I learned how to read in Texas and their horrible phonics system. I mispronounce words all the time, and like either nobody corrects me or I don't say Scythe enough to realize I said it wrong until somebody said it to me.
Word. We scythe things all the time.
I mean,
I know.
this one, I could have as like sweet little baby Stephen would have never gotten this particular word wrong because like my favorite Gundam in a Gundam Wing, I have two favorite Gundams. There's the main Gundam, and then the second one is Death Scythe, and it's the most edgelordy nonsense name.
That makes me very happy, Steve.
Yeah. So if I slip and say Sith, it's because I was saying it that way for most of my life and only quite recently got corrected on how to say it.
I feel like this is the equivalent of the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch can't say the word penguin.
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 So I feel like that's permissible because that's how I feel about Scythe. But so for my lemon drop, I couldn't find a martini glass, so I used a margarita glass goblet, and a single batch of lemon drop just looked so small in it, so I did a triple batch. But a single batch of lemon drop, at least the recipe I found, is 2 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce simple syrup, and the juice of a lemon.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much it.
And then I know, Jessica, you twisted it up a bit.
I did. I have to twist things up. Well, I put lemon sugar on the rim, and then I realized my pre-made simple syrup went bad. So I had to make simple syrup, and I threw in a few lemon wedges in just to make it a lemon simple syrup as well. And then I also added just a little bit of orange liqueur to make it just slightly sweeter and a different flavor profile. It came out.
Was your simple syrup gone bad? 2 parts sugar, or 2 parts water, 1 part sugar, or 2 parts sugar, 1 part water?
Even parts. Even parts, or yeah, usually even parts. But I've had it for a while. It was like a bar. It was. I did not make it myself. It was something else. So.
Yeah.
And it just didn't look quite right. It didn't look pretty anymore. I think I bought it like a year ago, and I went, I just decided to add more onto my plate and make a simple syrup.
Because you've got, all this free time.
I know.
So, and then Stephen is repping our mocktail version of the lemon drop, which is just lemonade.
Yeah, it's a sun-kissed lemonade.
Because once you take out the vodka out of a lemon drop, it's really just lemonade.
I mean, I should have made an actual like lemonade here at home and everything. 100%. I just didn't think about that part. It's not a part that I consider. Like, I don't think of making a drink with a book ever. I'm just like, yeah, whatever's called.
You know what? It works. It works. So for you fellow viewers and listeners, if you want to join us, you can either grab a cold lemonade out of the fridge or throw some vodka in it and make it a lemon drop.
Yep. That is the easiest way to make a lemon drop. Just throw some vodka and lemonade.
Yeah. So with your beverage of choice in hand, I'm going to pass it back over to Jess to jump in because she's leading us on this wonderful adventure of Scythe.
Oh, why did I agree to that? Okay. So
say no to me.
All right, I'll start out with the obvious. What are your first initial thoughts of just generally the book, like writing style?
So for me, the writing style is very easy to read. And that's one of those things I often run into issues with the content of young adult, not because they don't have good storylines, but because there's an age. There's definitely an ageism issue there, and it's hard for me to sometimes see myself in characters because obviously we're no longer teenagers. So
yeah.
What?
What?
But the
Never
writing
heard of it.
is very engaging, very easy to read. There's enough detail to give me a picture in my head without so much detail that I get lost in the minutia. So the writing style is very nice. I will say I was not completely sold for the first couple chapters on the storyline because I was like, oh, this is just going to be one of those like hero's journey kind of really bland, been there, done that. The thing that got me was when we got introduced to Scythe Goodard and the politics structure. The whole thing.
Yeah, as much as I wanted to like make you guys read it, I was like, there is politics in it. So I was like, Elizabeth would like that.
Yeah, because like that was immediately like where I was going because like in between we get these, and I could not figure out who Curie was till we got introduced to her, but you get the excerpts from the Gleaning Journal of H.S. Curie, and you got to those commandments, and I read those commandments and I was like, oh, there are so many ways you could corrupt this. Like, this is so not, this is so not a sufficient form of governance. Like, there's so much wrong with this potentially. Like, all it takes is one bad apple. And wouldn't you know, I then get to watch all the politics play out that come from that. So that was very exciting. But then I have the bone to pick with you about the fact that where we stopped was on a cliffhanger that
Really bad one.
Took all of my energy not to keep going because I was like, no, I'm not okay with it. Not okay with
just done it. I mean, speaking from my side,
don't talk to me.
Structures. I honor them. So that was number one. And number two, I did think that twist where Rowan ends up as apprentice to Goodard, I thought was just a little too cliche. Like, I get why they're teeing it up that way. And I hope there are a couple things that I think that they could do to change that in terms of what it's traditionally done as. But it was definitely, I'm like, not so sold on that twist. The other bone I have to pick with you is the fact that this is a trilogy, which means I know I'm going to be just as unhappy when we finish part 5 because it's not going to come to a resolution. And then I'm going to have to find time to read 2 additional books on top of everything else.
It's okay. She signed you up for a whole 3 books of good times. That's okay.
This is true.
It's significantly better and more political.
That part I like. I definitely like that part.
Those are my general overall first impressions.
For this one, for me personally, in the beginning of it, when I first started reading it, I'm real picky at first. If something is leaning too hard into what I feel are like I don't know, I guess like the expected ideas of any genre of anything, the names for this book, like the names of the characters, I was like, come on. Like I was like, these are the most like these are the most young adult book names ever.
Citra and Rowan, yeah.
Yeah, and I even like the name Rowan. There's a whole series of sci-fi books from the 80s that I love where like one of the main characters is named Rowan, and it's like she's the Rowan. I was predisposed to like this name. Nope. I was pissed about it, and they didn't have my attention until they really went into the idea of the names of the scythes being based on so much on like scientists and stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm here. I like this.
You pulled me back
scientists, historical figures in general. Too, so.
Yeah, like we have Mandela that's in there, Faraday, obviously Marie Curie, and a few other ones. I'm just like, I really like this structure.
Can we discuss? I have to find the names. Hold on. Keep going.
Okay. A thing that I didn't like for it was a little bit of the world building stuff. Like I get a lot of the ideas of how this world is supposed to work, and we're supposed to like you suspend disbelief for the sake of story in literally anything.
Mhm.
I just don't think the whole not keeping track of time thing would ever happen. How do you keep like any business or anything like that going on like with your record books and you don't keep track of the years? Year over year, there'd be so many issues. But that's me being picky, and I really like this book.
I feel like that might be answered more in the second book over because, well, I don't know about you, but at least Elizabeth for sure hasn't been quite introduced to exactly what the Thunderhead is. Like you kind of hear it mentioned and you know it's like an AI that kind of runs everything.
Overlord.
Yeah, it's basically like an overlord, but you haven't heard of the Thunderhead yet or like really gotten into what the Thunderhead is.
Mhm.
And I want to say that actually might even be in later books that you really get a full set of,
There's one joke that they make in like later on in the book is in no way, shape, or form future spoilers or anything. They make a computer joke with the Thunderhead where they mention a spinning beach ball for a processing thing, and I was like, okay, glad to know that parts of the old world stayed around.
Those things do happen. I mean, we've got slang from ancient times that we still use. So
It's true.
The two lines that struck me the most was when they were getting ready to go into conclave, which, I mean, there's the whole religiosity aspect of that I'm grappling with, but because there's the whole separation of church and state and all that fun stuff that
there is no state, so
blowing up. But the concept of where the direction Mid-America goes, the rest of the world follows, and I'm like, that is so colonialist of us.
I mean,
I get he's an American writer, and I get it's based in America, but I'm like, that's like just nail on the head, just a little too much.
But I will say, like, that's the idea of that stuff in general.
I know.
Like, it's unfortunate. Like, it's almost a truism for Americans. We made the entire map around ourselves, guys.
Oh yeah,
come on.
Yep. I completely get it. But then the other one, and this was the one that just made my day. Like when I read this, I laughed so hard. Everybody in my office thought I was losing my mind. But when the three new Scythes get Scythe.
You did it.
You did it.
It's catching.
So the three new Scythes get appointed, get ordained.
Yeah.
The better term.
I think it's actually the one they use in the book even.
Yeah, and they choose their three names. You have Scythe Goodall. Okay, get that one. Scythe Schrodinger. Okay, I get that one. And then Scythe Colbert.
Yeah. So this one I forget the name of the person, but I believe this is also a scientist.
Yeah, no, but it is not the Colbert I thought of when I read it.
Did you think you thought of Stephen?
Yeah,
he's not famous enough.
Colbert. Like, that's exactly who I thought of, but I'm like,
no, I'm fine with it. I'll take Scythe's Colbert. I'll take Scythe. Oh my gosh. I'll take the Scythe Daily. That would be great. It would be wonderful.
Scythe Noah, Scythe
Oliver.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So I read Scythe Colbert, and I was like, no. I was like, they have to mean the scientist, but that is not what immediately popped into my head. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Post mortality, he's what sticks around in 2042.
Now I want the Thunderhead to be voiced by John Oliver if they make a movie. That would be wonderful.
That would be great. Actually, it would be great. It really would fit it. I would love it.
Happy.
So, but yeah, no, those were probably like the two highlights for me.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two highlights for me.
Yeah. As a I was just curious. So, for you, Jess, you read a lot of young adult books. I don't read a ton of young adult books, but in no way, shape, or form do I like shy away from them if there's something that has a good story. So I've read a lot. For you, Beth, have you read a lot of young adult books?
Yeah.
I have read a fair amount of young adult books. I have not recently.
Okay.
That makes sense. Certainly in teens, early 20s, even through college, I read a lot of young adult because young adult's easy to pick up when I needed a break from
law textbooks.
Well,
Yeah.
Law textbooks,
Generally cheaper in price as well.
Also that.
Poli-sci textbooks, econometrics, those things. When I needed a break from that, young adult was easy to pick up. But I probably haven't picked up a young adult book in 7-8 years.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
So
you got her back on the horse. You did it.
I got her back
in
on
the pond again. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I will say, I do read a lot of young adult. I've been shying away from it lately and going more into separate genres just because it has been a lot of the same thing over and over again, a lot of the same tropes. And one of the big tropes that happened, in these last few years is having main female characters just being cruel in order to get their way. And sometimes there would be for good reasons because they were abused in the past or the typical young adult reasons why you become cruel. But I just don't love reading in the point of view of somebody that does cruel decisions or cruel things. And I was done with it. So, but yeah, mainly when I read young adult now, it's actually sci-fi, probably sci-fi young adult now in the last few years. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been just weird. And this was another reason why I think this stood out to me when I first read it too, was because Citra was sort of a really refreshing female lead of a character, especially being written by a male too. Which probably is what helped her more than anything, is being written by him. Because she's just has such an interesting, she's in your face about it, but she truly cares at the same time. I don't know, just Citra is intriguing to me as a person. So
I did think her character, I felt a little odd in the beginning of with her change from the beginning of the book and her first exchange with Faraday and everything to later on where there's something different in the characterization of the person for me where I don't necessarily she seemed more, I have not thought this through. So Rowan is more calculating for sure, and he thinks things through in a background kind of way, and so it's nice to have that balance of things.
Yeah.
But I also thought in the beginning when we were introduced to her that she also had a lot more calculating background thought than we get from her later on in the book.
Yeah. And I think it's more right now they're focusing on her weaknesses per se. Towards how, because she is calculating in her way and her different manner, but she doesn't like being in the dark about anything. And I think that's her natural weakness, which Faraday points out and manipulates constantly, is she doesn't like not knowing what's going to happen next. Whereas Rowan is that counterpoint where he's just like, well, what am I going to do about it? It'll be fine. Where she's like, no. But I think that's more her difference in calculation, is that Rowan is fine with just letting things go. And she's like, no, shady shit's going down. We should be asking more questions. No, this is not okay.
I did a good job of...
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're...
I do feel like Rowan is like, yeah, shady things are going down, but there's no point in asking about it because nobody's going to give us answers. So you might as well just keep observing. You and I both know what's going. We both get it. But
we'll be fine.
I'm not going to worry about it till I can do something about it.
Which, I mean, I think in that situation, I would probably be of the same mind as him on that one. You still collect your information and everything, but you don't need to weaponize it yet. But also, I don't know if that's given me success in life. I don't know.
See, and I definitely I empathized with Citra and the concept of I don't like not know. What do you mean you aren't going to tell me? What does this test look like? How does this go? Why is there no agenda to this meeting? Like, you're telling me there is no written agenda to this meeting? Are you kidding me? Like,
my favorite of hers complaint was like, y'all just washed in the same basin of water. Like, ew. What's wrong with you?
but like,
In a time where you don't need to worry about diseases, by the way, she said, ew.
I mean, it's still nasty.
It's still
gross.
The writer did a really good job for me of making me like Scythe Faraday. Where I think like it would be so easy for them to set up the idea of a character who's supposed to be the older mentor, kind of like sympathetic kind of role, and have that fall flat. They did a good job. I think everyone is well voiced in general, and they all are really separate characters. And I appreciate that. There are a lot of books that do not nail that.
The only character I think that falls flat for me is the Highblade.
Xenocrates?
Xenocrates.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know where that one comes from. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't quite. He doesn't seem to have any motivation for the actions he does. At least as of right now in his character.
Okay. Yeah, I was like...
Don't say nothing.
Yeah, no future spoilers ever.
But within the first third of the book, like, you get that he's paired with Goodard. Like, you get that he's on Goodard's side. He doesn't seem to get the satisfaction. And Goodard is very much, and one of the things I do actually enjoy about young adult literature is that you do tend to at least have a very clear bad guy and a very clear good guy.
I don't like that part.
You often get a lot of people in the middle. For me, I like those distinctions when I'm reading something just for fun. Just because I read so much in my day-to-day job where I have to be paying attention to all the nooks and crannies, and I have to make determinations really focused on each line and each action, that when I want to read for leisure, I'm looking for something that I don't necessarily have to parse apart.
That's fair.
Super in detail to figure out who is the good guy, who's the bad guy. Like, I don't necessarily like having that as my main characters. I like having middle characters who kind of go back and forth, and you're like, they're not so great, they're not so good, you know. But I like my protagonist and my antagonist to be
set apart. Good.
Yeah, no, you want that to be the chocolate, not the peanut butter. You don't want a Reese's in the middle.
I actually like Reese's, so yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Wait, did we just find it? Do you hate Reese's peanut butter cups?
I hate Reese's peanut butter cups.
That's the name of this episode.
Elizabeth hates Reese's peanut butter cups.
Also, Scythe.
So I get that he's paired with Goodard, but he doesn't seem to have the malicious intent Goodard does. And I'm guessing where his motivation's coming from, but you really don't get it. Doesn't seem very calculated.
For this one, what is it that you think is kind of like, as of right now, what is he sticking with Goddard on this stuff from? Or
because he fears Goddard taking over. And so it's strictly a preservation of power.
Okay.
Like,
that one's fair.
I'm going to align myself with the person that is the most risk to my position. Which I do anticipate backfiring on him, because it normally does in those situations. But he doesn't seem to be particularly smart about it.
I would agree.
He's got a gilded gold robe, so
yeah,
come across as smart.
So
it's gotta be heavy.
How do you guys feel about the idea of this kind of system?
Humans gleaning humans that are immortal.
I mean, to be quite honest, in this situation, I think it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
to have some
because of the immortality of humans in this one.
Yes. If you take the immortality of humans, you have unlimited humans and limited resources. So you either have to sterilize everybody, or you have to start killing people. Like those are your only options because you have limited resources. Limited supply means you have to regulate demand. That's just the way it works. Those regulations can be based on economy, based on fertility, based on death. I mean, that's just what you get. I think that the concept of putting them above the law makes sense to a certain extent, except there needs to be more regulation internally then. Like the 10 commandments, as vague as they are, leave too much to exploitation.
Yeah. Now, this is the only thing that is regulated solely by the humans that are in it. The Thunderhead has absolutely nothing to do with it, even though the Thunderhead is considered to be absolute perfection and to always make the best decisions that it possibly can with the logic it has. The Thunderhead decided that there is emotions involving in death that therefore meant that it could not be the one to decide who died, that it should be a human that gleans a human and not, because the Thunderhead could just flip a switch on the nanites and kill a person, no problem, like just utter randomly. But
I think the reason that one doesn't happen, even though they give other reasons for that one, is for the preservation of the idea of the Thunderhead being in charge of everything else. If if the Thunderhead was like this overarching kind of thing, but then it was also the arbiter of death for this one, people would inevitably rebel against it, in my mind.
Yeah, rebel or fear it, and I don't think it wants to be feared necessarily. And I'm going, so
it gets to be a provider, while humans are the ones that do the killing.
Yeah. One thing that I like that's pointed out in the book is the consequences of immortality. And one of the big consequences is pointed out when they go to the museum before, I think it's like right before they decide to become apprentices.
Well, when they
to Faraday.
Yeah,
or when they get first offered it, they go to the museum and they have the age of mortality and they can compare it to the artworks of their current time and how you lose that. And which I found interesting because they still do have a chance to die in horrible ways. I mean, you see Faraday, he doesn't always choose the nicest of ways for somebody to die. He has a very interesting method of using statistics of how people would. I actually loved how he picked it out because it made logical sense to be like, well, statistically, you would have died in a car accident, so you're gonna go. But he chooses. There was a statistic of people with heroics going after to save a dog in a flood, and even if you're a good swimmer, you're probably gonna drown in a flood, kind of thing. And he actually drowned that person. So
for early on,
it's still a fearful death, but you still lose the artwork. You still lose the ability to be creative. Like, can you be creative without the fear of death over you?
I'm going to say no. Like it's pretty much like it's a well-known thing. Like when there's this quote that's young people, they have all of the ideas and none of the money to make those ideas real. Older people have all of the money but none of the ideas. I think there's just this natural kind of progression that happens with life in general, where as you get a little bit older, there's just not the same kind of determining factors that make you make something that's truly creative. And as much as that sucks to say, I really think that we've observed this being true. Pretty much all of the bands that anybody likes, when they got old, those albums are bad.
They do.
Like, not everyone, this doesn't hold true for absolutely every person. There are some people who make great art and everything while they're older, but a lot of it's trash.
Well, I mean, and the other thing is a lot of your creativity comes from emotions. Like it's an emotional thing to create. And so if you're not used to the emotion of fear, of loss, of those kinds of it's hard to put emotion on paper when you don't have any emotions. The other thing that I'm really glad that this book addresses, because I don't think it's addressed sufficiently enough, when you build utopian societies that immortality is a thing, the loss of drive becomes so significant. And they mentioned the fact that Thunderhead actually leaves in some inequality because you need to have some driving factor
to get some want to live.
People going. So it's kind of interesting that I'm glad that they kind of address that as being an actual issue in society, because I feel like a lot of utopian books just kind of gloss over the fact that, no, of course nobody has any interest in doing anything because there's no point. All of your needs are taken care of. You're not going to die. Like, there's just why bother?
They're just the Eloy.
Yeah.
We've got two of those.
So I was glad that they approached that very much.
I do also like, I assume, Tiger and his splatting.
I didn't like that part. I get the concept of it, but it was I don't know. I don't hate it, but it also seemed like a world building thing rather than a character trait.
Yeah, no, definitely a world building thing, but I thought it was
for sure
put in the world building as opposed to just talking about generally the concept of people you have splatters. Like to have that through an individual character was kind of nice.
Yeah. Because I agree with that one. Like I like when you introduce like an aspect of the world through a character like this. I don't know if any of you guys have read any cyberpunk novels or anything, but there's one, it's Snow Crash. And the entire opening of the book, the whole way that they describe the world is through what pizza delivery is in this world. And it's wonderful.
Okay.
See, I've read another sci-fi novel, which was another one that I almost picked, but it's super sci-fi, which is Interdimension, and he determined what dimension you were in by what color the submarine is for the Beatles.
Yeah, I like that.
So
that's like in Sliders. Every time they try to go back home, they check the gate to see if it's squeaky. If it like in Sliders, they got home one time, but he went and tried to squeak the thing, and it had just been oiled. And they went on to the next world. Yeah, Quinn didn't get to go home. Quinn died.
That's so sad. All right. Just, do you have any other final questions for us?
Let's see. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go with, which I don't know if you can answer this, Stephen, but who do you want to win? Who do you want to be the next Scythe?
That's a hard one.
And why?
You got anything for this one, Elizabeth?
Yes, but nobody's gonna like my answer. I want them to burn the whole system down.
I know. I think that's squarely what we get. I think that is very much what happens.
So
that's why we got 3 books.
Based on where we're at, I want Madame Curie, or not Madame Curie, but I want Scythe Curie to become the High Blade. Okay. And I want Citra and Rowan to both be new Scythes. I want Rowan to be on the Gleaning committee, and I want Citra to be on the Entrance committee.
Okay. I think I want them like pretty much all to die in in the restoration of like a previous system. Like the Thunderhead is still around, and there's nothing that's determining all life or anything, but it's also there to help humanity from going too off the rails, because we certainly have a propensity for it.
So wait, so you want the Thunderhead system to all be blown up too?
No. I want the Thunderhead to be there, but to not be in like as prevalent as a role as it is currently. And like,
okay,
I don't want Scythes to exist. I think that's a doo-doo system.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. I think that might be it. I mean, I do have like 2 pages worth of notes, but it was mainly just me writing down the quotes that I really like.
Well, tell us a quote that you really liked.
Oh, see, now I have to like search for one.
Vamp for her. Vamp, Elizabeth.
Vamp.
Well, while Jessica's looking for a great quote to end it, I'm going to go ahead and move into our footnote. because we don't get a chance to often talk about things that relate to the book. And so we figured for this one, Neil Shusterman would be a good topic for our footnote because, at least for me, and from the sounds of it for Jessica and Stephen, like, we've never heard of Neil Shusterman until this series, despite the fact that he's written like 100 books.
100 books.
Or something
What?
ridiculous.
At least according to Goodreads, it's 100 books, which that could be like multiple copies too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like, he's got
What?
on like Wikipedia, they have like 12 series.
yeah,
So
I know there's one major series that I think it's Unwind or something like that. And he also has a book called that I really want to read, and I think it's called. Is it called? I can't remember. I can picture the cover, but it's another futuristic one where there's hardly any water. I think it might be called Dust, but I can't remember if that's Dust or
I've got Unholy, Challenger Deep, Unwind, Dry.
Dry. There we
that
go.
sounds right.
That sounds right. It's like Dust.
Which looks like it's a red cover with like a black leaf that's like, or feather that's like wilting.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so Neil Shusterman was born in November 1962 in Brooklyn, New York. The thing that I found really interesting is apparently while he was in high school, his family moved to Mexico City, where he attended the American School Foundation for his junior and senior year. The part I found really interesting is because it looks like in several interviews he states that having his international experience changed his life and gave him a fresh perspective, which really resonated with me because I know that one of my favorite things having done up to this point is studying abroad several times. And it's one of those things that I'm like, anybody who's like, should I study abroad? Should I go abroad? I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Do it.
Like, don't finish the question. That's the answer. Yes. So he has won several awards, including the Boston Globe Horn Book Award, the California Young Reader Medal, the National Book Award for Young People's Literature, and then for Scythe, he won the Prince Award. So lots of awards, ridiculous amount of books. He's currently living in LA, it looks like, from all of the information I can find. And he's also written for Disney Channel original movies. And
he's writing the DComs, huh?
Yeah, and
Whoa.
episodes of the Goosebumps and Animorphs.
Wait, what?
He wrote the TV scripts for episodes of Goosebumps and Animorphs.
Okay. No, writing Animorphs stuff makes a lot of sense for this one.
Right? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm tracking. So that's kind of the broad overview of Neil Shusterman, our illustrious author for this book. I did feel like in researching that, I'm like, there's some things in here that make a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
They make a lot more sense.
I am a little surprised at the age of the writer.
Oh, do you think he was younger?
Yeah, I would have said, I don't know, like, just not quite that age. I don't know. It's not that far off from what I was thinking, but still not that age. I don't know.
Yeah, he hasn't turned a corner yet.
Yeah, can we discuss that topic? Because how awkward would it be if your grandmother turned around and looked younger than you?
It'd be the worst thing ever.
You guys just have a grandmother, I did.
The pressure to like look younger than your grandmother or your mother is all of a sudden a problem. Like, but I look older than you now. And now I've got to turn the corner. I wasn't going to turn the corner.
And then, like, my questions are like, okay, till death do us part no longer becomes a thing. Like, because, like, till forever? Like,
till forever? I mean, till eventually a Scythe walks through the door, maybe.
Maybe if they ever do. Like,
yeah.
It's random, pretty much. So,
I think you would see a massive change in relationships.
I do like that our first introduction to Faraday is him basically kind of sort of being a jerk because he openly knows that Citrus family is utterly worried one of them is about to die, and he's just asking for food and lemonade. But he doesn't say at the beginning, "Oh, I'm killing time, not killing you." Like, he's just like, "I want some lemonade." No, I'm here for your neighbor. They're not home yet.
The fact that Rowan's grandmother is married to a bot.
I am curious.
That was just glossed over too. It's just like ended up that he wasn't indeed a bot. Just boom, that's it. That's the last year.
I'm like, why would you feel the need to lie about that? Like at this point in this day, like, why are you lying about that?
It's still taboo-ish, maybe.
That's how people are. I mean, people like there are things that are like 100% socially acceptable in this day and age, and people are like, no, I've never had filler put in. Like no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We know you turned the corner. We got it. We got it.
It's fine.
There are a lot of implications for the idea that there's a robot that could pass for human, though. In just that one thing, there is so much
that could be done with that.
Yeah. Which I do expect to see in the future.
Yeah, I would say there's a reason it's a trilogy.
Okay. Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. So I did find a couple quotes. So one in the beginning, hope in the shadow of fear is the world's most powerful motivator. Probably one of my favorites. And then also one of my favorites, just small one, is nothing we learn is useless. So there we go. Which I think the first one, I want to say Rowan says, and then the second one Faraday says. So, and Citrus just general snarkiness, like just so does that mean? I don't know. What did she say? I don't think I wrote it down, but she's like, so if we're spatulas, then what are you, safety scissors, or are you just tools? Like just.
Yeah, there's some good zingers in the beginning.
Zingers.
I also really like the zinger to the high blade after Faraday gleans himself, and Ron looks at him and goes, "Oh, so you mean it's your fault?"
Oh, so it's your fault.
Yeah.
Just that's the kind of teen angst that I like. The witty, just like, no, this isn't. Nah, that's you.
Writing for teenagers has gotten a lot better. I mean, look at back in the day and like Back to the Future. Marty's pretty much a whole character trait. The only thing that was big for him was that he was cool, and oh boy, did he get mad if you called him chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Just the fragile masculinity.
Yeah. That's the whole character for him, and oh man.
Poor Stephen. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for this episode. Thanks everybody for watching and joining us. So we're going to attempt this sign out.
we have to say, dude, if people wanted to talk to us a little bit more about these books or anything like that, outside of the conversation that we have here today, where can they find us?
You guys can find me on Twitter as JM Bailey Writes. We do also have an Instagram page called Love of Pages.
You can find me across all social media as either Peppermint Gentleman or Peppermint Gent.
And you can find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at Geek Elite Media. And our Facebook page is /Geek Elite Media. You can find archived episodes of this podcast, which do now exist, and other podcasts, all from the network of Geek Elite at geekelite.com. But until next time, this is The Love of Pages, reminding you to keep turning pages and always geek out.
Geek out.
Geek out.